At this point, we need to understand one very critical detail. The Redeemer King for which the secret societies are awaiting differs significantly from the biblical Redeemer King, whom we know is Jesus Christ. There are three differences. First, Jesus Christ is Almighty, omnipotent God, the second member of the Trinity. But the secret society Redeemer King is to be an ascended master, a man arising from within secret societies, who has lived many lifetimes and has reached a perfect state. He possesses the Christ consciousness inherent in this perfect state, and thus possesses the necessary knowledge to lead mankind into the perfect golden age. The second difference is that Jesus Christ possesses inherent power because he was and is God. But the secret society Redeemer King, which we know to be Antichrist, can only access the power of the Logos, of the occult, and only because he is an adept of the mysteries. He will not possess any inherent power. Rather, the only power he can command was derived from his knowledge of the occult and from Satan. The third difference is that Jesus Christ reestablished the law and the prophets and raised the standard back to the high point at which God had established it under Moses. But the Redeemer King, for which the secret societies are awaiting, will continue to hide the secret truths from the common people, elevating those members of the secret societies to their rightful place in honor in that society. Let us return now back to this history of secret societies, now that we have established this background of understanding. At the time that God led the children of Israel out of their slavery in Egypt, Middle Eastern secret society teaching had existed for hundreds and hundreds of years. During the 70-year Babylonian captivity, this deadly virus began to penetrate Jewish religious leaders in Babylon. These Jewish leaders began to dabble in the occult. A Jewish secret oral tradition began to be espoused, distinctly different from God's written Pentateuch. Two systems of Jewish oral teachings were created, one public and one secret. The public teaching dealt with the affairs of everyday life, such as laws on buying and selling and the making of contracts, and what constituted work on the Sabbath. This practical law was later called the Talmud. Jesus railed against the imposition of this man-made law upon the people because it bound them so tightly to the priests, and it created a frustrating set of standards to which no one could attain. And these standards were not from God. They were man-made so that the priests could control the people. The second set of Jewish oral traditions was extremely secret and was classic secret society. These teachings later became known as the Kabbalah. One of the books constituting the Kabbalah was called the Sefer HaZohar, or Book of Light, written in the 13th century B.C. This book was committed to writing by the Rabbi Simon and his son Eliezer, who sat in a cavern every day with sand up to their necks. While they were in this awful physical condition, they meditated on the sacred law and were frequently visited by the great prophet Elias, according to Nesta Webster, Secret Societies, on page 8. The Apostle Paul was right on target when he warned in 2 Corinthians 11:14-15 that Satan and his demons may transform themselves into angels of light and ministers of righteousness in order to deceive gullible man. Thus, in the 13th century A.D., the Kabbalah was written down in book form rather than just being oral. One of the most common points among false religions is that the original text of Revelation was given to the founder by an angel of light. Both Muhammad and Joseph Smith were given their new revelations from an angel of light. Thus, the Jewish priesthood began formulating a plan to bring all Jewish people into spiritual and physical bondage by creating this dual system of the public Talmud and the very secret Kabbalah. The teachings of the public Talmud bound the people by almost 1,000 rules of everyday living, and it began to move them away from the spiritual truth that God had revealed to Moses. Thus, the first requirement of a secret society was fulfilled, that of hiding the truth from the people, partly by outright fabrication and partly by adding to Moses' original laws. The secret teachings of the Kabbalah were truly satanic. Some authors have admitted These teachings were for magical purposes. One author critical of the Kabbalah wrote that the Kabbalah is, quote, a subtle poison which enters into the veins of Judaism and wholly infests it, unquote. That's from Theodore Reinach, quoted by Nesta Webster in The Secret Societies, page 9. Salomon Reinach calls the Kabbalah, quote, one of the worst aberrations of the human mind, unquote. Further, the Kabbalah has significantly influenced the beliefs and the direction of many European secret societies, which were subsequently established in succeeding centuries. Since Satan is the Lord of this world, he has the power to prosper those who follow his leadership. This was the bait that attracted these Jewish religious leaders to the mystical, magical properties inherent in the Kabbalah. And make no mistake about the fact that these Jewish leaders prospered greatly. Even though Israel was suffering under the bondage of Gentile rulers such as Greece and Rome, the Jewish priests won a certain autonomy which enabled them to virtually rule dictatorially over their Jewish citizens. And the common Jewish citizen simply did not understand that these religious leaders had foisted upon them a system which simultaneously put them under a yoke of bondage while elevating these leaders to positions of great power and wealth. And the depth of misunderstanding was so great that the average Jewish citizen still greatly admired and honored these religious leaders who were so afflicting them. Now let us examine the Pharisees, most of whom were members of the Cabal, using the 5 common characteristics of which we have already spoken. We will also turn to pertinent New Testament passages to aid our understanding. You will be shocked at the new meaning of these famous biblical passages now that you understand that the Pharisees who developed and carried out the plan to kill Jesus were members of the secret society called the Kabbalah. And now you will understand that Jesus was speaking directly to the members of this secret society. The Pharisees possessed arrogant pride. Jesus said in Matthew 23:14, "Whosoever shall exalt himself shall be abased. But woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For ye shut up the kingdom of God against men. For ye neither go in yourselves, neither allow ye them that are entering to go in." One of the characteristics of secret societies is they will deceive the common people of key truth, especially the truth of how to obtain eternal salvation. They will keep this truth to themselves as a means of power and privilege. Jesus spoke directly to this terrible situation in Luke 11:52. He says, quote, "Woe unto you, lawyers, for ye have taken away the key of knowledge. Ye enter not in yourselves, and them that were entered in ye hindered." The teachers and lawyers of the law knew the simple truth that God had developed for the people to be saved for eternity, yet they hid this simple truth from the people, substituting the terribly suffocating system of daily rules of living against which Jesus so railed. These damnable secret society Pharisees were deliberately sending entire populations of Jews to hell because they had hidden the truth from them. This is why Jesus railed against them so terribly. Secondly, the Pharisees developed dual personalities. In Matthew 23:27-28, Jesus said, "Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For ye are like unto whited sepulchres, which indeed appear beautiful outward, but are within full of dead men's bones and of all uncleanness. Even so, ye outwardly appear righteous unto men, but within ye are full of hypocrisy and uncleanness." Thirdly, the Pharisees developed complex systems of oral teaching, and they taught the Jewish people to revere them. In Matthew 15:1-9, Jesus said, "Then came to Jesus scribes and Pharisees, saying, Why do thy disciples transgress the tradition of the elders? For they wash not their hands when they eat bread." But Jesus answered, "Why do ye transgress the commandments of God by your tradition, ye hypocrites?" Jesus is clearly speaking out strongly against the evil which the secret society Pharisees had perpetrated against the Jewish people, that of creating an oral tradition supposedly equal to God's written teaching, and in fact actually contradicted God's written word. No one understood how they had been tricked because they did not possess God's written word. The Pharisees had God's written word and were keeping it to themselves. We encourage you to read Matthew 15:1-20 carefully, with the insight that Jesus is speaking here primarily against secret society satanic teachings and practices. Time after time, Jesus declares that the Pharisees are going to hell. He minces no words. On 2 occasions, Jesus described the Pharisees as vipers, which the Dictionary of the Bible by Dr. William Smith gives as a synonym for serpent. And of course we know that the serpent is consistently utilized in the Bible as one of the names for Satan. But Jesus leaves no room for error on this subject, not wanting us to miss the point that the Pharisees were not just sinners. In John 8:44, Jesus says that the father of the Pharisees was the devil. Jesus never said this to any other person or group of sinners. He was very compassionate toward the sinners. The reason Jesus was so stern toward the Pharisees was that he knew they were worshiping Satan through their participation in the secret society, the Cabal. Fourthly, the Pharisees believed man is inherently good. Since they believed man to be inherently good, they developed a system of salvation based upon good works. This system of works was later to be called the Talmud, but Jesus kept referring to it as the traditions of men. The Bible clearly teaches that man is inherently evil. Therefore, there's absolutely no way that man can perform enough good works to completely atone for his evil. And fifthly, the Pharisees were looking for the promised Redeemer King. Both pagan and true Judaic scholars were looking for a Messiah King to arise to lead mankind into a new spiritual light and a new material prosperity. However, the pagans of the secret societies were looking for a promised Redeemer far different than what the Bible taught was to come. And now that we know that the Pharisees who so mightily opposed Jesus Christ, who wanted him dead so badly, and who demonstrated such supernatural hatred of him, were members of a satanic secret society, the Kabbalah, we are now ready for an even more shocking revelation. However, this new understanding will have to wait until next week, when we shall discuss the ramification of the occult secret society's beliefs about Jesus Christ upon our leaders and upon our society today. Join us next week and invite a friend to listen. Dear listener, if you do not know Jesus Christ as your Savior, you must not delay any longer, for the time of grace is rapidly running out. But we born-again believers can live each of these last days joyfully and triumphantly, for we are as sure of our salvation as though we are already in heaven. Since this program is totally listener-supported, we need your support to stay on the air. If you are blessed today, please consider supporting this ministry, either on a one-time gift basis or regularly. You can mail your check and money order to Cutting Edge Ministries, 11 Robert Toner Boulevard, Suite 5-393, North Attleboro, Massachusetts, MA 02763. Or you may go to our homepage at www.cuttingedge.org and click on Supporting This Ministries to fill out the form there. We take Visa, MasterCard, Discover, and American Express. Be sure to indicate the radio station upon which you heard this broadcast. If you would like to purchase a tape of this program, please send a check or money order to this above address for $3 plus shipping, or you may put such a purchase on your credit card. Visit our CD and tape store on our homepage. And may God richly bless you, and keep looking up, for your Redeemer draweth nigh.